Welcome to another episode of Grassroots Racer, everyone. I'm really excited this week to speak to a driver who is making their way up the ranks of motorsport in a few different categories of racing, actually. And I can't wait to hear more about what it's like racing in TCR. So let's get right into it. It's a big welcome to Lachlan Mineeff. So how are you, Lachlan?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Anton. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
It's actually a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. And let's take some time to chat. So firstly, how did you get involved in motorsport?
Well, my family was involved in motorsport through dirt track speedway, so a little bit different to circuit racing and where I've ended up. And my dad and uncle both competed from the 80s to the early 2000s in dirt track speedway, mainly in sprint car racing. And then when I was 7, in 2009, 2010, I got a go-kart for my birthday, my 7th birthday, and from there we progressed through the ranks, and ever since my first drive in a go-kart, really fell in love with the sport.
So you said you did go-karting, so how long did you do that for?
I raced karts from, I was driving karts when I was around 7, and then we decided to make the move into racing competition when I was 10, and then we did karting from when I was 10 to when I was 14. The first few years just competing in club and state level events, and then towards the end of my karting career in 2016 and 2017 we raced the New South Wales state titles and also a few rounds of the national series, which was really good, and really enjoyed my time in karting. It's the most purest form of motorsport, and the best way for anyone to get into racing, and we had a really good time in karts. In 2016 we finished second in the New South Wales State Championship in Junior National Heavy, and then in 2017 we actually won the 2017 Junior National Heavy New South Wales State Championship, which was fantastic. And in that year we were racing Formula Ford as well in the New South Wales State Series in selected rounds of that. And 2017 was a really cool year for me, progressing from karting into Formula Ford, and really enjoyed our time in karting, and wouldn't have changed it for the world.
So that's amazing. You won the state championship in Junior National Heavy and you came second, and then you also mentioned there that you moved into Formula Ford, which lots of drivers do progress from karting to Formula Ford. So how old were you, and what brand of chassis did you use?
So I was 14 when we moved into Formula Ford, and very fortunate to jump into car racing at the youngest age you could in Australia. And we're in a 𝘿𝑚𝑔𝑎𝑙 chassis, which was won by the CAG racing team in Canberra. And being located just south of Sydney, that worked out really well for me. Only a short trip to Canberra to meet the team there, and had such a fantastic time in Formula Ford. They're a really pure race car, and obviously no aero, H pattern gearbox, non-slick tyre. They really teach you a lot about car control and car setup, and also wheel-to-wheel racing. Being an open wheeler, you have to obviously race really clean, and accidents can happen, but they teach you some really good habits, and extremely thankful for my time in Formula Ford.
Yeah, so you just mentioned a couple of things there about Formula Ford that you actually like about it, and it's amazing that you're at this point of our chat we've got to Formula Ford, which for some drivers is really hard to do, to get to that sort of level. But what did you like the most about Formula Ford?
Yeah, obviously, as you mentioned, I was extremely fortunate to have the support from family and friends to have the opportunity to go Formula Ford racing, and they're a really cool car. Obviously, the power to weight is fantastic of the car, but mainly just how light the cars are is a really cool factor of them. And obviously being so lightweight and so low powered, or not so low powered, let's say, but not having the most horsepower in the world, you really have to drive them with a lot of momentum, and you can't afford to really be slowing the car up in the corner. It teaches you a lot about corner speed and driving the car right on the edge, and making the most of your driving, because there's certainly no drive raids of any sort to mask up any bad habits. So yeah, just the fact that the momentum-based racing, and you get to some of the faster tracks like Phillip Island and the Bend, where the drafting really comes into it. It's a really cool experience.
In Formula Ford, I'm guessing you would have raced against Tom Sargent, who is also another Formula Ford racer still currently. And is it true that you did a Bathurst 6 hour with him in a Toyota 86? Yeah,
that's right. Tommy and I raced Formula Ford together in the same team since 2018 when Tommy jumped into Formula Ford, and he's been a really great teammate of mine for pretty much my whole career nearly now. We both raced in a bit of the National Series in 2018 and 2019 as well, and we've done the 6 hour together twice now with the CHE racing team in a Toyota 86, once in 2019 and the second time in 2021, and the last one being more memorable, being able to win our class, placing 15th outright of 60 cars, which was a huge achievement at Bathurst earlier in the year, and that was a very, very cool experience, and running that with Tom and the CHE team was a dream.
That would be awesome, winning at Bathurst, even if it's a 6 hour in a Toyota 86. And you said you were 15th out of 60. That's a big achievement, and that's for sure. And it's definitely a bucket list track that I'd love to race on one day, not just the sim. But you also said that I was reading up on you, and you got a Porsche Carrera Cup drive at Wakefield for a test. So what does that feel like compared to a Formula Ford?
Yeah, obviously the Porsche and the Formula Ford are both very, very cool bits of kit, but the Porsche especially, obviously the power and the slick tyre and coming up in them high-speed corners, the aero is very, very cool on them cars, and obviously the racing this year and over the past years has just been top-notch, and to drive one of them cars is a very fantastic opportunity, and they have a very similar lap time to a Formula Ford at some tracks, and especially Wakefield Park, but the way that they make their speed is quite different. Obviously the Porsche having a lot more power and being able to drive out of the corner, where the Formula Ford can really challenge the Porsche, the tighter corners, and make it up in braking and corner speed. So obviously they're both very, very cool bits of kit, and the Porsche was very, very cool experience, and very thankful for that.
So during the COVID-19 pandemic last year and this year, you were able to compete in the ARG Esports Cup, which is a TCR online racing championship. So was that the key for you driving at Phillip Island in 2021 in a TCR? Yeah,
obviously the 2020 was a year on the sim really for me. We had a few real life test days, but no actual race meetings. Really enjoyed my time on the sim, and spent a lot of time on that, which I feel definitely progressed my driving. Having a year off and exclusively on the sim really made me think about why I use the sim for my real driving, and really focusing on them techniques and the racecraft and battling that you can take from a simulator and put into the real world. So I think that the sim racing is obviously very good, and I was fortunate to compete in the ARG Esports Cup, which was a fantastic series run by the team at Australian Racing Group. Taking a win in that series was cool at Oran Park, which is obviously a track that was based in Sydney and now is no longer here in the real world. And you speak with drivers who have competed there. It's obviously a very, very cool circuit, and such a shame it's no longer there. But to take a win in the virtual world there was very cool, and against some guys that I look up to, including Garth Tander and Stephen Johnson, and some very top level guys in supercars and other forms of racing in Australia. To go take a win in the virtual world was very cool at Oran Park, and obviously ever since TCR started up in Australia in 2019, I've kept a really keen eye on it. I think it's a fantastic series that, compared to a lot of other top level categories in Australia, looking at Super 2, Carrera Cup and supercars, it's very, very hard to get into there. But TCR is a fantastic series where the cars are a little bit more achievable on a budget aspect for the amount of value that you receive, especially with live TV. And obviously TCR was our goal to get into after Formula Ford, and it wasn't to be in 2020, but just really appreciative of the opportunity that I've had in 2021 here to compete in the Gulf. And starting off at Phillip Island was really cool, and definitely a weekend in the deep end. All forms of cars and racing that I've done in the past had a lot of preparation. You look at the 286 effort that we had. I've been driving that car since I was 13, 14, really developing my skills there, and in Formula 4 a lot of testing and state level racing. But the fact that at Phillip Island I hadn't seen the car till Wednesday and hadn't driven the car till practice one on the Friday of the race event was a really different experience. And the fact that we could jump in and be competitive right away, obviously the highlight of that weekend and probably our season this year was the wet race at Phillip Island. Obviously we struggled in qualifying, being my first time on a green tyre, new tyre. We started 20th and moved all the way up to 9th, which was a really, really cool result. And obviously I don't have as much experience in the TCR and front wheel drive racing as a lot of the rest of the field, but the wet weather being a great leveler, and one of the first times that it had rained in TCR, the fact that we were able to jump in and be so quick was certainly promising, and gives us a lot of hope for the rest of the season. Obviously the rest of the weekend learned so much across the wet and dry conditions, and racing the guys that I would never have thought I'd be able to race, and in the real world this time, which was very, very cool, and thankful for that opportunity, and looking to see how the rest of the year goes.
So that's really cool. You finished in the top 10 on debut, which also led you to Team 88 Racing, giving you an S5000 test drive. Is that a category you'd like to race in one day, and how was the experience?
Yeah, the experience was fantastic. I simply can't thank the team at 88 Racing and ACM Finance for the opportunity to drive such an incredible car. Obviously, the S5000s are probably one of the rawest and visceral experiences you can have in a race car. Obviously, the amount of power that the cars have, and the extremely wide, slick 𝘠𝘢𝘅 tyre, and obviously the aerodynamics and carbon tub. The handling of the cars is sensational, and obviously the huge amount of power. You certainly have to drive the cars with a lot of respect, and really quite differently to TCR, nearly opposite everything on that car to an S5000. And a lot of the principles that I'd learned in Formula 4 and 286 racing and TCR, you have to kind of put all in one to drive the S5000. And that was a very, very cool experience. And obviously the cars and the drivers and this new 3-round international series that they're running later on this year looks very exciting. And obviously some of them rounds do clash with TCR, and TCR is our main focus this year and into the future, but you certainly have to keep your options open. And S5000 is certainly a very exciting category that we could look to getting into in the future.
Yeah, so it's amazing chatting to you so far. You've raced so many cars and you're still very young, so which would have to be your favourite?
Ooh, it's interesting to say. Obviously, the TCR is a very exciting car to drive, and the unique nature of the slick tyre, the little bit of aerodynamics, and the paddle shift gearbox, and the real hairiness of driving them on the limit is very cool. And then you look at the power of a car like the S5000, it's just pretty mind-blowing, to be honest. And then you look at a car like the Formula 4, where they're so raw and teach you so much about driving. Obviously, been very fortunate to drive a lot of very cool cars in my career, and very hard to put my finger on a favourite, but very, very cool either way.
Well, I still think it's pretty amazing that you've driven all of these cars. Last but not least, have you got any sponsors that you need to thank, or is there anyone in particular that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, obviously had some very cool opportunities throughout my career, and got to obviously give thanks to the people that brought me there. Firstly, Southern Star Truck Centre. You look at VAG Parts, who have been on our program this year in TCR, and we've got a lot of people that have been involved in our program, and I'm very fortunate to have their support. really enjoying developing our relationships on that side of things. So yeah, obviously very thankful to the people around me, and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, so that's very cool. And to anyone that is still wondering, Lachlan is a TCR driver, and if you're looking to sponsor him, I'd definitely sponsor him because he's definitely a talent that will be in V8 Supercars or Formula One very soon. I've seen you on social media and I've been chatting to you on Instagram, but where can the viewers follow you?
Yep. Obviously, through my social media platforms, Instagram is just Lachlan Mineeff, and Facebook page Mineeff Motorsport. There are main two platforms, and then also my website, which is lachmineeff.com.
Thank you so much for speaking to me today, Lockie. It's great to hear about your progress from karting in New South Wales to racing in TCR and having Porsche Carrera Cup and S5000 tests done before. You are a future talent that I'll definitely see in V8 Supercars or Formula One if that's your dream. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's supporting Grassroots Racing and watching tonight. I know COVID has made it very hard on everyone to get back on track, but remember, when you do, drive fast and take chances. Thanks, Lachlan.
Thank you. Cheers.